Okay.
Yes, we use Blackboard Collaborate and we work very we used to use it. They change it and
Yeah.
for this face to face, so we use.
No use, yeah. Hey man, do you need me to repeat what I said? Just in case, I can.
Yeah, you can start now.
No, I mean, do you mean me to repeat what I already said? That I am
If
going
you
to-
want,
Okay, yeah, I can.
but you don't share.
Okay.
Open Zoom again.
So it's here.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have to click in this one
Yes.
and select the presentation.
I'm sorry about this.
No, it's fine.
Share.
Yes.
Okay, it's sharing now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, as I already said, I am not able to speak for 2 hours in a row, so I am going to use an alternative method. So it will be reproducing my notes automatically. Okay, so today we are going to, it's a 2 hours long session, so we will have a break between both of them. And we are going to talk about the teacher's guide about inclusion in our university. Okay.
We will see general recommendations regarding the teacher's attitude, classroom climate, curricular aspects, as well as guidance and coordination, the specific responses to the different needs of the students with hearing, visual, and motor difficulties, Asperger's syndrome, learning difficulties, mental disorders and organic diseases, and good practices in the employability.
We will start with the general recommendations. Oops. I'm sorry.
Regarding the teacher's attitude, it is important to know the characteristics and needs of students, paying special attention to students who have special educational needs. Not to identify the student with a disability in the classroom, unless you have had permission from the student to inform their classmates. In addition to common sense, an organic law, 15/1999, of December 13, on the protection of personal data, obliges us to the confidentiality of the information we have about our students. Reduce anxiety with respect to students with disabilities, know the regular and occasional symptoms and needs, like needs for postural change, to go to the bathroom frequently, existence or not of pain, need for medication, possible seizures, and know how to react and what protocol to follow. People with disabilities know better than anyone what they can or cannot do. Never decide for them about their participation in any activity and, on the contrary, always ask them for their needs, for the adaptations that we could implement to facilitate access to the curriculum. Maintain a natural attitude, not prejudge the person by certain physical or mental characteristics that may present. The association of such characteristics with developmental difficulties or delays in development and cognitive ability should not necessarily be assumed. Do not put limitations on the resources or assistive technology devices that students may need and use, sign language interpreter, guide dog, subtitles, notes in advance, computer, communicator.
Oh.
Regarding the classroom climate, given the needs that students with disabilities may present, teachers must enable solidarity, establishing guidelines, shared responsibilities, promoting cooperative attitudes, and personal and material help among peers. In this sense, the teaching figure, the relationships established, and the attitude adopted towards students with special educational needs will be decisive. Achieve in the classroom an environment of respect for diversity and a fluid climate of communication, taking into account the circumstances and needs that each student may present, promoting their confidence, personal autonomy, and participation in university life. For this, it will be essential both the involvement of teachers and students, as well as students with disabilities themselves. There are also volunteer students, who, in exchange for credits, are enrolled in the accompaniment program for students with disabilities to participate in solidarity and cooperation activities aimed at classmates with disabilities. The program is managed by the Vice Rectorate for Students and Employability of the university through the Service for People with Disabilities. An important curricular aspect is the application of the principles of universal design of learning in the curricular design of the subjects that ask to provide multiple means of representation, the what of learning, including options for perception, for example, offer ways of customizing the display of information, alternatives for auditory and visual information, options for language and symbols, such as clarify vocabulary and symbols, syntax, and structure, support decoding of text, mathematical notation, and symbols, illustrate through multiple media, etc., or options for comprehension, like activate or supply background knowledge, highlight patterns, critical features, big ideas, and relationships, guide information processing and visualization, maximize transfer and generalization. Provide multiple means of action and expression, the how of learning, including options for physical action, for example, vary the methods for response and navigation, optimize access to tools and assistive technologies. Options for expression and communication, like using multiple media for communication, multiple tools for construction and composition, build fluencies with graduated levels of support for practice and performance, or options for executive functions, such as guide appropriate goal setting, support planning, and strategy development, facilitate managing information and resources, enhance capacity for monitoring progress. Provide multiple means of engagement, the why of learning, including options for recruiting interest, for example, optimize individual choice and autonomy, optimize relevance, value, and authenticity, minimize threats and distractions. Options for sustaining effort and persistence, like vary demands and resources to optimize challenge, foster collaboration and community, increase mastery-oriented feedback, or options for self-regulation, such as promote expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation, facilitate personal coping skills and strategies, develop self-assessment and reflection.
Are you able to understand well the sound? Okay, thank you.
Here in our university, the teaching staff has the advice of the Service for People with Disabilities at every moment. The service assumes the role of mediator between the center and the new students, first, and the teaching staff and the students, later, throughout their entire academic journey. It is an essential support for teaching, carrying out a bridge work between students and teachers, providing solutions to the different educational needs that may arise at any time, making known to teachers the disability characteristics of students, advising on possible curricular adaptations, managing both personal resources and technical aids necessary for each situation, etc. In this regard and before the start of each academic year, the service prepares a report in which the needs and guidelines for teaching action and evaluation presented by each student are collected and accessed through the class lists in a university-specific application, DAR, thus guaranteeing the principle of protection of personal data.
Now we will talk about the specific responses to the different needs of different students with different conditions.
One of the characteristics that most differentiates the group of people with disabilities is their heterogeneity. Thus, disabilities can be manifested or hidden, congenital or acquired, mild or severe, temporary or permanent. Likewise, personal and/or environmental needs or limitations are unique in each case, and it will be necessary to contemplate both. We will start with the guidelines for students with hearing difficulties. Hearing difficulty is a total, deafness, or partial, hearing loss, deficit in auditory perception that fundamentally affects access to information and communication. People with hearing difficulties use two different forms of communication. Oral communication, either by having a cochlear implant or having developed bimodal strategies such as, for example, word or lip facial reading, or perceiving speech through a hearing aid in the case of partial hearing difficulty, or signed communication, mainly through the use of sign language. In the university environment, students with hearing difficulty may face some of the following: literacy difficulties, lack of technical vocabulary, difficulty understanding abstract concepts, errors in written expression, problems in the structuring of sentences, problems in the conjugation of verbs, or behavioral specificities, alteration of cognitive flexibility, rigidity, susceptibility.
How to interact with the students with a hearing difficulty.
In general, the teacher should know what communication system the student is going to interact with. Always speak to the students face to face, slowly and articulating properly but without raising the voice. Ensure good lighting of his/her face to facilitate communication. Must be careful not to cover his/her mouth with any object, hand, pen. Try to express with short, correct, and simple sentences. If necessary, uses gesture support to improve understanding and communication. Make sure the student is looking at his/her when asking questions. Touch lightly the student's back or shoulder if it is necessary to get him/her attention. If he is far away, turns the light off and on intermittently. Address the student and not the person who accompanies him/her at that time, sign language interpreter, classmates. And keep in mind that lip reading produces ambiguities, as well as the difficulty of people with hearing difficulties to understand figurative language as jokes, double meanings, which can produce problems in communication. In the classroom, the teacher, in general, avoids noise and poor acoustics, as it greatly hinders communication and understanding of the message. When not understand what is expressed by the student with a hearing difficulty, asks him/her to repeat it. Not act as if he had been understood. Also, if necessary, repeats the information in another way to make sure the information was understood. Respects his/her pace, giving time to both make sure he understands the information and express his/her self. In a conversation with other students, always respects speaking turns. When the student has difficulties in expressing his/her self orally, do not interrupt or finish his/her sentences without consent. Does not move much around the classroom so that the student can read his/her lips and follow the classes. As far as possible, stands in front of the student, no more than 4 meters. Alternates the stimuli that support the information that is transmitted in class, oral, visual. Do not write on the blackboard while is giving oral explanations. The student will not be able to read the lips or perceive the oral explanation.
Maybe it's a bit weird when it says slash. Slash means him or her, she or he.
It is convenient that the students are placed in the first rows so that they can follow the explanations. Organizes the space in a U-shape or a circle, so that all students can see the interventions of their peers. Promotes confidence in the classroom so that the students are encouraged to ask for something that they have not understood to be repeated. Like the rest of the classmates, asks him/her from time to time if he follows the explanations. Uses visual support documents in oral explanations, PowerPoint. Whenever possible, uses subtitled movies or videos. In the case of not having it, requests the subtitling to the service for people with disabilities. Allows the use of other support resources in class, such as laptops, communicators. Uses the transmitter microphone in the class explanations if the student uses the frequency modulated, FM, equipment as support for auditory reception. Collaborates with the sign language interpreter, who must be placed next to the teacher and in front of the student.
Now we are going to see adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies for students with hearing difficulties.
Some methodology that it is important to follow. Deliver in writing any material that will be used in class during the course, documents, readings, bibliography, outlines, slides. Advance the scripts of the films and videos that are going to be used in class and that do not have subtitles. If the student has a sign language interpreter, it will be necessary to advance to him/her the most common technical vocabulary, as well as any other material that will be worked on in class, so that he/she can adapt a translation as adjusted as possible to the subject treated. Promote those learning situations more favorable for people with hearing disabilities, such as working in small groups. If necessary, provide other possible ways of access to the objectives and contents of the subject, as well as its evaluation.
During the classwork,
Communicate well in advance the schedule of the type of work to be carried out and the completion date so that they have enough time to organize and participate on equal terms. In individual work, ensure access to documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the work. In some cases, they will need to be given more time to complete the task. Likewise, allow them more time when it comes to oral presentations or defenses. In the group tasks, in general, they will be able to participate in the same way as their colleagues, both in the realization and in the exhibition of the works, using the supports they may need, technical resources or sign language interpreter. In field work, some adaptations may be needed for communication since third parties may be involved.
for tutoring meetings, technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, and others are especially important tools for personalized communication with the students with hearing difficulties.
For the evaluation, it is recommended to use the same evaluation techniques that are applied to the rest of the students, but use the necessary adaptations to ensure the understanding of the instructions for the realization of the different tests. Provide the student in writing with all the information that can be given orally, evaluation criteria, time to do it, or other clarifications or comments that may arise during the test. To solve his/her doubts, explain the content with other words, vocalizing clearly and making sure he has understood. In the exams of development questions and, in the works in general, they can present morphosyntactic errors in their writing. Focus on content rather than form. Allow the use of assistive technology devices, FM stations, computer, in both written and oral exams. The Service for People with Disabilities manages and facilitates the computer for the realization of the exams. If the student requests it, allow the sign language interpreter to be present during the exam. It will be essential in the oral exams of the signatory students. When necessary, difficulties of written expression and or reading comprehension, grant them more time to take the test. What resources used to be needed for students with hearing difficulties? Sign language interpreter, staff of the university managed by the Service for People with Disabilities. Volunteer students, for supporting students with hearing difficulties in taking notes. Hearing aids, individual electronic devices that capture, process, and amplify speech and environment sounds by adjusting them to the user's hearing loss. Cochlear implant, a hearing aid that transforms acoustic signals into electrical signals that stimulate the auditory nerve. Frequency modulated, FM, equipment, a system composed of a portable transmitter and a receiver connected to the hearing aid or cochlear implant. It improves the intelligibility of oral messages, alleviating the difficulties derived from the distance of the speaker, reverberation, and noise from the environment. Magnetic loop, device that transforms sound into magnetic waves that are picked up by the hearing aid. A microphone picks up the voice of the speaker and transmits it in a modulated way through the magnetic cable. It requires the pre-installation of the loop that creates the magnetic field in space, classroom, conference room, etc. Warning systems, information panels, devices on which the information that is being transmitted acoustically at that time appears in written form, and light signals, devices that are illuminated to report an incident of which, generally, it is alerted audibly. Subtitling service of audiovisual material, managed by the Service for People with Disabilities. Self-copying paper notebooks for note-taking. Computer for taking exams.
And now we are going to talk about the students with with visual difficulties.
Visual difficulty may consist of a total loss of vision, blindness, or a partial loss when the person retains some type of visual remains, visual deficit. However, this classification is extremely simple for the diversity of students that can reach the classrooms. As always happens under the label of disability, there is a great heterogeneity of diagnoses and, of course, of the symptomatology that can present, which will vary in relation to the multiple circumstances of each person, diagnosis, causes, and scope of the deficit, time of onset of the deficit, stimulation, and training received. Having in mind the previous slide, these would be some of the characteristics that students with visual disabilities can present and teachers should take into account. In persons with blindness, access to information is through the ear, touch, and proprioception, so multisensory integration is essential. This means that they need more descriptive narrative oral information about the events that happen around them, the graphic presentations, the images, or the texts that are used in teaching. If this multisensory integration does not occur, the information may be limited to the closest, to nearby objects and situations, with a slow and fragmentary exploration of reality. The assistive technology devices and adaptations that each student requires will be determined by the type of difficulty and/or by their visual functionality. Generally, they will require adaptations of access to the curriculum, methodology, and evaluation. They may also present needs, especially new students, with respect to the accessibility of the environment, displacement, and spatial orientation. They may have limitations in accessing printed material or doing so in a slow manner. Persons with blindness use the Braille system or audiobooks. Teachers must have in mind that reading in Braille is slower than the usual linguistic process of reading. Students with visual difficulties may face issues in the understanding, acquisition, and conceptual development, especially of abstract terms and/or with great visual influence.
How to interact with the students with visual difficulties.
In general, it is important to know what visual limitations and specific adaptation needs the student presents. Make sure that the students know properly the areas of the center through which they usually have to visit to carry out the different university activities. Describe the immediate space for them so that it can be located. Take care that the classrooms are well lit for the students with some visual remainder, avoiding placing them in front of the light. Enable large spaces in classrooms, for example, sufficiently wide corridors between rows of tables. Avoid obstacles such as chairs or tables that are mislocated. Doors and windows must be completely closed or open, never partly open. Ensure that most subjects take place in the same classroom to facilitate access and familiarity with the distribution of furniture. Notify them in advance of any variation in the distribution of classroom furniture. Indicate the different spaces taking their position as a reference. Address the student and not the person who accompanies him/her at that time, orientation specialist, volunteer, classmate. Avoid the use of generic or indeterminate exclamations that may cause anxiety or insecurity to the student with visual difficulty, such as alas, be careful, etc., replacing them for example with stop. To address the student, call him/her by name. Teachers must identify themselves so that the student knows with whom he is relating. The teacher has to let the student know when leaves or moves away from his/her side. Before offering help, ask if they need it. If yes, offer the arm, or indicate where your shoulder is, so the student can use it as support. Never catch him/her by surprise as it can be dangerous. Do not put impediments to the presence of the guide dog, as it is a right. Never distract the dog, it could destabilize his/her user. In the classroom, in general, avoid noisy media and poor acoustics, as they greatly hinder communication and understanding of the message. Respect his/her pace, gives time his/her to both make sure he understands the information and express his/her self. In a class conversation, always respect the speaking turns. In question times, debates, etc., we must understand that blind students do not see if other classmates have raised their hands, so sometimes it may seem that they do not respect the order of speech, participating spontaneously when they have something to contribute or ask. Students with some type of visual deficit should be located in the first rows for better visual and/or auditory access. The students must have enough space for the deployment of the adaptations they can use, Braille books, keyboard, recorder, as well as for the guide dog if they have it. Teachers should promote confidence in the classroom so that the students are encouraged to ask for something to be repeated that they have not understood. Like the rest of the classmates, ask them from time to time if they follow the explanations.
Now we are going to see adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies for students with visual difficulties.
Methodology. Students with blindness can take notes with a device, braille and speak, laptop, tablet, and keep up with the class without great difficulty. However, students with remnants of vision either cannot or, if they do, they may be able to collect only the most significant ideas. Offer in advance and in electronic format any material that will be used in class, notes, documents, readings, bibliography, slides, diagrams, figures, films and videos. Always in an accessible format so that they can access the documentation through the reading programs they use. Alternatively, give indications of where they can find it, to give them enough time to convert it to accessible electronic format, sound, or braille. This management should be processed through the Service for People with Disabilities of the university with the collaboration of other bodies that care for people with low vision. The service prior to the start of the course requests the teaching staff involved in each subject, the bibliography and material to be used in class. These bibliographic references and /or materials are sent to the ONCE, National Organization of Spanish Blind People, so that the adaptations of material are made and the students can have it before the beginning of the course or semester. If photocopies of any printed material are provided, they must be of good quality, both for better readability by students with low vision, and to enable an optical reader to scan and subsequent recognition by voice synthesis by students with blindness. Explanations must be descriptive and very specific. Teachers must offer precise and clear verbal descriptions, both of the situations and circumstances of everything that happens in class and of the used materials, especially when their content is preponderantly visual, what is written on the board, what appears in the different types of visual supports, presentations, videos. When reading a document in class, it must be done slowly and clearly, avoiding making summaries or comments on it during the reading. Spatial references such as here, there, that lack meaning for the person with blindness, will be replaced by more concrete verbal references, taking their position as a reference such as, for example, to your right, in front of you, about you, etc. For classwork, communicate well in advance the schedule of the type of work to be carried out and the completion date so that students with visual difficulties have enough time to organize and participate on equal terms. In individual works, ensure access to documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the work. Keep in mind that reading through the Braille system is slower than usual. In the group tasks, in general they will be able to participate in the same way as their colleagues, both in the realization and in the exhibition of the works, using the technical support they may need. The use of book stands in class exhibitions is of great help, especially when support material is used in the exhibitions. In fieldwork, depending on the space in question, the students may need the help of someone to guide them and verbally describe the unknown scenario, volunteer, companion, or a guide dog. Tutoring meetings. As for students with hearing difficulties, technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, are especially favorable tools for personalized communication with students with visual difficulties, given the existence of computer programs that make this type of media accessible. in the evaluation of students with visual difficulties. Use the necessary adaptations to ensure that students with visual difficulties understand the instructions for the correct performance of the different tests. Adapt, with sufficient time, the written exams to the Braille system or make sure that they are accessible documents, taking into account different adaptations in their presentation, font, size, separation, contrast, enlargement of characters to which the student will access through a reader installed, JAWS, NVDA, on an adapted computer, management process through the service with the collaboration of ones. Allow the use of assistive technology devices in exams. The service for people with disabilities will manage the provision of these resources. Enable the oral exam format. In the case of evaluations that contain a high visual component, provide adaptations of images, graphs, diagrams. When this is not possible, or sufficient, it will be necessary to replace the visual sections with other questions of non-visual content and that evaluate similar skills and abilities. The use of three-dimensional objects may also be recommended. Due to the slower pace imposed by visual limitations and the use of specific materials, it will be necessary to grant the students more time for the test to be carried out. Supports for orientation and moving around, guidance specialist, guide dog, cane, floors with different textures. Volunteer students for support in taking notes. Adaptation of texts. Assistive technology products, on-screen character enlargement programs, Zoom text, Magic, and screen readers, JAWS, voice devices, Braille lines, instruments that allow reading printed texts, magnifying glass TV, scanner, and optical character recognition programs, autonomous equipment for storing and processing information, Braille and Speak, Sonobraille, PC-made, Braille typewriters and printers. Self-copying paper notebooks for note-taking. Calculation, an adapted scientific, financial, and statistical calculator with voice, audio calc, calculation program, Multical. Positive drawing templates, embossed illustrations, and three-dimensional models, thermoform, Fusertuven, adaptation with textures. Spyglass/monocle, hooked to the glasses, they allow to see in an augmented way in the distance, whiteboard, or very close, computer screen. Lectern, desk lectern. Adapted study spots in the campus libraries.
Okay, so as I think this is making you feel a bit sleepy because maybe the voice is boring, and I'm sorry about that. I am going to try to speak with my voice. We will see. Yeah, but
I think the speech synthesizer is better.
sorry.
No offense.
Sorry.
It's clear.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I feel it's a bit boring for you.
No.
Are you sure?
We're technology freaks. We like
Okay.
it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, in fact, I think it's a good alternative if your voice is not very clear and you're having problems to speak.
Maybe the eye contact while reading the lesson. Feel that the eye contact is important.
Then, do you think I should continue with this? Okay.
Yes, for me it's okay.
Okay. Did you know this this tool of PowerPoint?
I don't understand. Subscription.
And automatically reproduction of the notes.
Yes.
Okay.
Office 365. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Now, we are going to talk about students with motor difficulties. Persons with motor difficulties presents permanent or temporary alterations in his/her motor system, due to an affectation of the nervous and/or musculoskeletal system. It can limit in different degrees the performance of some activities of daily living. The following would be some of the general characteristics that students with motor difficulties can present. They present a great heterogeneity, depending on their origin. Brain, cerebral palsy, cranioencephalic trauma, multiple sclerosis, tumors. Spine, spina bifida, injuries and spinal trauma. Muscles, myopathies, or bones, arthrogryposis, rheumatism, deviations of the rachis. According to its etiology, genetics, microbial. On their area of the body affected, monoplegia, hemiplegia, paraplegia, diplegia, tetraplegia, or paresis. Depending on the degree of alteration, mild, moderate, or severe. Its onset and evolution, congenital, acquired, chronic, degenerative, etc. In addition, associated conditions may also be present, related to the communication and language, difficulty breathing, phonation, articulation, alteration of the praxis, synkinesias, dysarthria, sensory, auditory, visual, perceptual disorders, and sometimes to the intellectual, emotional, and social aspects. Other associated conditions can be epilepsy, digestive, respiratory, pain and contractures, incontinence. For all these reasons, in some cases it is common for them to have to attend periodic medical visits, physiotherapy sessions, hospitalizations, etc., which can affect their attendance and academic performance. The main limitations of this heterogeneous group would be mobility and displacement, especially due to the architectural barriers that prevent accessibility, postural control and manipulation, palliated with different adaptations and assistive technology devices, including alternative communication systems in some cases. Mobility, manipulation, and communication problems do not have to interfere with the teaching-learning process, but disability could make it difficult to acquire the knowledge and objectives established for the subject. For this reason, curricular adaptation must be foreseen, both with respect to educational intervention and evaluation, as a response to the special educational needs they present. Do not take for granted the association of certain physical characteristics that may be presented by students with some motor disabilities, slowness, speech difficulty, drooling, with delays in cognitive development. Do not prejudge. In general, it is a group that will need a greater number of resources and assistive technology devices that will be fundamental to them to be able to enjoy the same opportunities as the rest of the students to pursue university studies.
How to interact with the students with motor difficulties.
In general, and as always, know what physical limitations and specific adaptation needs the student presents. Ensure that the classrooms and other spaces of the center or campus, library, copy shop, computer rooms, coffee shop, etc., that are going to be used are accessible, located on the ground floor or with elevator, doors wide and light enough, accessible bathrooms nearby. Organization of the classrooms, enable large spaces in the classrooms, for example, sufficiently wide corridors between the rows of tables, wide doors, information boards, switches, and material cabinets, accessibility to the platform and the blackboard, etc. Keep in mind that sometimes they will need help to photocopy, have a drink in the coffee shop, reach for a book from a high shelf. Show your willingness to collaborate. Address the student and not the person who is accompanying him/her at that time.
Very important.
If the student has speech difficulties, respect his/her rhythm and give s/he time to express his/herself. If the teacher does not understand something, politely ask him/her to repeat it. The teacher never pretends that s/he has understood the student. Students with the impossibility of expressing themselves orally will use an alternative communication system and will need more time to express themselves. The teacher must be patient and make an effort to understand them. To interact with a person in a wheelchair, it will be necessary to be at their height, if possible sitting before them. If it can't be, it's a good idea to move away from a little so that the student is not forced to strain his/her neck too much when looking at the teacher during the conversation. Do not move or touch his/her wheelchair excessively, since, if there is no close relationship, it may be considered as an invasion of his/her personal space. Do not prejudge the person for certain physical characteristics that may occur: slowness, difficulty speaking, drooling. People with disabilities know better than anyone what they can or cannot do. Do not decide for them about their participation in any activity.
This last point is very important. I remember once when I was studying my degree, a professor told me, no, you can't do this. And I was feeling very offended because I thought I was able to do that. And I remember this very much. So we know what we can do or we can't. So we don't, at least I don't like anybody tell me, you can't do this. I will decide.
In the classroom, teachers do not have to leave the student's field of vision when moving around the classroom while teaching, as they will sometimes have difficulty turning their necks and directing their gaze towards the emitting source. In a conversation, always respect the turns of speech. In question time, debates, presentations, etc., respect the student's rhythm whether their oral expression is slow and difficult or if they use an alternative communication system, board, communicator. To facilitate the understanding of the message, the teacher looks at the students from the front and leans on their gestures. Never interrupt them by finishing their sentences, even if it is with the good intention of speeding up communication, without their express consent or has not been previously agreed between the interlocutors. It is convenient that the students who use wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, are located in seats next to the aisle closest to the door, to facilitate greater autonomy in their movements, within the same classroom, to leave and enter, etc. They should also have enough space if they need to use adapted furniture and for the deployment of the adaptations they can use, computer, communicator. Teacher should show flexibility and understanding whether they enter the classroom later, for scarcely accessible transport, slow movement, architectural barriers, as if they come out of it at some point during the class, due to incontinence, need for grooming, taking medication. It is important to promote confidence in the classroom so that they are encouraged to ask for something to be repeated that they have not understood. Like the rest of the classmates, ask them from time to time if they follow the explanations.
Well, again, we are going to see some adaptations, right? And teaching and evaluation strategies for students with mobility difficulties.
Regarding the methodology, teachers should offer well in advance and in electronic format any material that will be used in class, notes, documents, readings, bibliography, outlines, slides, films and videos, or indications of where they can find it. Note-taking will be almost impossible in some cases of severe manipulative limitation. A colleague can provide them with the use of self-copying notebooks. Place the teaching material and objects used in class at the height and within reach of wheelchair users.
Yes, sir.
What is a self-copy? No.
So it's like a I can't find the word I want to say. Yes.
This kind of written that you write, it's
Yeah, yeah. 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 Then if a volunteer or classmate is taking the notes,
For himself?
Yeah,
Use
yeah.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Without photocopying.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
all right.
For classwork, communicate well in advance the schedule of the type of work to be carried out and the completion date so that they have enough time to organize and participate on equal terms. In individual works, ensure access to documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the work. In many cases, they will need to be given more time for the presentation of documents, etc. In the group tasks, in general they will be able to participate in the same way as their colleagues, both in the realization and in the exhibition of the works, using the technical support they may need. When students use an alternative communication system, it will be convenient for the members of the group to become familiar with the system to improve the quality of communication within them. They may have greater difficulty talking in large groups, so working in small groups is advised. In field work, depending on the place, if accessibility conditions are not met, transport, irregularity of the terrain, stairs, the service for people with disabilities will collaborate in the adaptation and management of the necessary resources, adapted transport, support staff, alternative itineraries, etc. Given the obstacles and difficulties it has to overcome, it must be considered allowing them a longer deadline for the submission of results.
well, here is the same than in the other cases. So virtual campus, email is a good option for personalized communication with students with mobility difficulties. And in cases of absenteeisms of the student, for example, due to different hospitalizations or treatments, tutoring meetings can be a good resource to recover that time with the student.
For the evaluation, use the same assessment techniques that apply to the rest of the students, but use the necessary adaptations to ensure that students with disabilities understand the instructions for the correct performance of the different tests. Use accessible spaces, and allow the use of assistive technology devices, adapted material and furniture. The service for people with disabilities manages and facilitates the computer with the specific software, if necessary for the realization of the exams. Enable the exam to be carried out in a separate classroom with specific material equipment, especially if this material could disturb the classmates. Due to the slower pace imposed by manipulative and/or communicative limitations and the need for the use of specific support materials, it will be necessary to grant them more time for both written and oral tests. Objective tests or questions that require short answers could be a good option. In cases where the student has eased for oral communication and important manipulative limitations for handwriting or typing, enable the option of the oral exam. In some cases, given the impossibility of students to write even with the use of assistive technology devices, they will need the help of another person who writes what they dictate. The management of these support staff is carried out through the Service for People with Disabilities. Students with motor difficulties may require educational support specialist, university staff managed by the Service for People with Disabilities, whose function is the accompaniment of students with a mobility difficulty that need it. Volunteer students for support in taking notes. Accessibility adaptations, adapted transport, reservation of parking space, wide and light doors or with an automatic opening card, ramps, elevator, non-slip floor, adapted bathroom, signs placed at an accessible height, spacious, with support bars, single lever tap, low mirror, space under the sink, etc. Assistive technology devices for mobility, wheelchairs, walkers, crutches. Adaptations for postural control, low height of elements such as shelves, switches, adapted furniture, lecterns, appropriated height of the table, different orthoses to fix the posture, standing frame, splints. Assistive technology devices for writing and communicating, pencil thickeners, signaling and typing pointers, hand, foot, head wands, optical pointer, adaptations to access the computer, adapted keyboards and mice, switches, keyboard emulators, touch screen, etc. Augmentative and alternative communication systems, used as an alternative to communication when the student's speech is intelligible or is not possible in any way, communication boards, manual signaling, by sweeping, by optical or visual pointer, communicators, mobile phone, tablet, computer, with voice output. Other resources, self-copying paper notebooks for a colleague to provide notes. Adapted study posts in the libraries of the campuses. Locker to store the material. Computer for exams and note-taking.
Okay, so here finish the first session. You want, we can have a 10 minutes break and we will continue later. You're welcome.
So you have to mark
Yes.
all the text.
Yes.
So what happens if you just click on the notes area? Will it?
For example, here.
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
No, it's not reproducing anything.
Now,
It's only one word.
Yeah,
All right.
so I need to select.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could also use Control A.
Sorry?
Control A. Control A.
Control A.
Use Control A. Control A.
No.
Okay, try double click.
I don't know what is happening now.
Double click. Yeah. Double click.
And then?
And no, then you play.
No.
Double click, it will select all.
Oh, yeah.
Select all
Okay.
and then click here directly.
now we are going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will follow with the inclusion guidelines.
I don't know why the voice is changing.
The voice?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me
but double click.
Control Z.
Yeah, you're right, inclusion. That's why
Okay.
they thought it was Spanish.
Okay, yeah. In fact, it said 10 rather than.
What was it?
The inclusion is written in Spanish with the accent,
Yeah.
so it's
Okay.
changed automatically to Spanish voice. So it's English, Spanglish?
You will send us Spanglish. You will send us this. You will send us this presentation.
You have.
Yeah, you will have it. Yeah.
It's very good.
After the.
Thank you.
After the training. Yeah.
I'm sure.
References for this work. From where? From where?
This one?
The references.
Yeah.
From where?
The problem is the document is in Spanish.
It's translated from a document
Yeah.
written in Spanish.
But well, everything is here in the presentation. So
Oh, it's very rich of information.
thank you so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
to know that.
So we'll have it prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Esto quiere decir que te faltan 125 diapositivas, o sea, son 125 y estás en el 54. ¿Sí? ¿Para las dos se termina? No,
Bueno, hemos empezado como 20 minutos
más
tarde.
tarde, claro.
Pues es que ha habido un momento que los he visto casi todos dormidos y digo, uff,
Ya,
eso he pensado, pues
se oye súper bien, la verdad es que está guay, ¿eh? Esto,
la verdad es que es
Está
una
súper
buena
bien.
alternativa.
joder, claro, tienes todo el texto escrito bien en las notas y, joder, habla alto, claro, en inglés guay, está súper bien.
Claro, lleva su tiempo porque tienes que escribírtelo todo tal cual lo vas a decir. Porque, claro,
Yo no tengo eso hecho nada, o sea, yo voy improvisando como puedo.
Pero es
Ya,
verdad
es un
que
trabajo, claro, es al final.
me dio miedo. O sea,
Meter todo.
como la semana pasada estaba completamente afónica, pensé, pues que si no puedo hablar de algo.
Ya, ya.
Y esta noche
sea que-
me estaba toda la noche tosiendo, me pica un montón el pecho. Yo creo que tengo que ir otra vez al médico porque
Joder, te van a hacer otra prueba más, claro, estás todo el rato con pruebas, ¿no? ¿Sabes que la hija de me ha dado positivo?
te lo ha dicho esto. Oh, pues me ha asustado.
No, pero a ver, siempre está con mascarilla.
Ya,
que
sí,
no-
sí, sí. No, está claro. Pero tengo unos amigos que después de 5 test negativos, PCR negativos, luego dio positivo. Y mi amigo, o sea, ese es su marido, y mi amigo al día siguiente positivo también. Y digo, yo no estaba en contacto con ellos, solamente por teléfono, pero dices, oh, yo llevo 3 negativos.
Estamos rodeados ya, o sea, es
Sí.
como, yo me veía súper rodeada cuando pillamos nosotros, me veía rodeada por todos los sitios, decía, o sea, de esto ya no nos libramos. No sé, chica, lo de... O sea, y tú llevas ya tiempo con esto también.
Llevo más de 3 semanas. Y luego es que mi padre estuvo con mi abuela en el hospital. Mi abuela estuvo ingresada, mi padre estuvo con ella.
¿Tu abuela por COVID también?
No, una vesícula.
Vale, vale.
Y claro,
I just want to comment on this presentation.
Yeah.
And very important information.
thank you.
But I want to ask you, do really the academic staff aware of all these instructions are implemented already in classrooms?
Yeah, well, I am not teaching here. I am as a postdoctoral researcher. Miriam is teaching.
Yeah.
You know if one of these is
They make these instructions as
Yeah.
I think so.
There is a guide. This is from a book published. So when as a teacher you have this book.
as an advice.
These are guides, advices for adaptations. No, not instructions. And then when you get the report, yes, you should.
I'm thinking about taking yours serious. If you allow
Yeah, sure.
translated to Arabic.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, distribute,
Given to
yeah.
our academic staff.
Yes, it's very good.
As a part of our curriculum, how to train them and
Yeah.
learn how to do
Yes, this is a PDF. No?
Yeah.
It's a PDF in Spanish, so you can we can
Translate
send
it
the
from
PDF
Spanish.
and you can take and translate to Arabic. Perhaps Google is a good Google Translator is a good tool for that. I don't know in Arabic if it does okay the translation.
We'll check it.
Yeah.
Every cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can put the document in the same.
Yeah, in English. This is from English to Arabic. Yeah.
It's very important that academic staff should know.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the basic.
For the training piece, I didn't find such information
Mm.
spread to
Yeah.
my team and to my
Yeah.
teachers.
This is the basis. I think this is the basis for everything.
Well,
I
I
think that is very important.
am glad to know that.
Yeah.
Part of this material, you prepare by yourself or by your experience, or you take it from,
I took everything from the guideline. Yeah.
The guide. Yeah.
is there any instructions comes from your experience and your
Just from me, no. No, well, the example I put about this professor that told me you can't do this, that is from me, but no.
and there's references at the end of this presentation, there's references.
I think so, yeah.
But because of she has translated everything to English,
Yeah.
so we can send the English version.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
access from here. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, this is the one reference.
I put here the link, so you can access from here. So we don't need to add the document.
Yeah, but this is in Spanish.
This is in Spanish.
But the translation you have done on the translation.
The
Yes.
presentation,
So
Yeah, we can add
we
the
can
document.
send the translation in English, so you can translate from English to Arabic.
I want the same
The Spa-
presentation.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
this-
you are going to
It
have.
is clear and good for me to
Yeah.
give it to my students. Thank you very much for this.
You are welcome. Well, the presentation is mine. I mean, the text is not mine, but the presentation, yes, is mine. I made it. Thank you so much.
They don't do it on pharmacy because in my country they do it in pharmacy.
¿Empiezas ya o puedo mirar una cosa?
Don't bother with us.
Okay.
I've already asked them.
Ah,
They
okay,
said
okay.
they will make a appointment.
Ah, okay.
So I just asked if there is something there.
So you need this because you are working in Spain, or it's
Every person who enters Greece from an airport, an airplane, needs a PCR test. No matter vaccines, no matter nationality, no matter anything. To enter Greece for a year, you need a PCR for 72 hours or a rapid for 24 hours. It's not just 1 year.
1 year because we went to this, we didn't need
Oh, you didn't?
I have my certificate of
No me deja cambiar el idioma. ¿Qué no te deja cambiar el idioma?
¿Y qué coge ahora en
Español.
español? ¿Con qué ha empezado?
Ah, vale, ya está, ya está.
Ah, ya está.
Vale, picado, ya está.
O sea, que te haces doble clic y luego le das al iconito ese.
Vale, sí, vale.
O sea,
Que lo he
para eso
añadido,
has tenido que instalar.
De estándar, no, o sea,
No, estaba ya, ¿no? En el PowerPoint.
O sea, tú entras, a ver, espera, que lo tengo en inglés en mi ordenador, vale. Más comandos, vale, y aquí, bueno, pones todos porque de normal no está. Y ya sale, lo de leer, buscas y ya sale.
Ah, vale.
Pero sí, la verdad es que es genial. Ya lo añades aquí y ya está. Oh, pues eso no lo hago para nosotros, lo que nos han dicho.
Sí, claro, es que es súper completo esta guía.
Que han cogido como información más práctica lo que tenemos en el inglés.
Sí, sí. Es que yo creo que al final hemos hecho una cosa guay, ¿eh? Al final, entre todo, yo he dicho, esto lo tenemos que hacer nosotros. Después de esto, cuando pase un poco, porque está saliendo muy bien.
Para celebrar que al final, o sea, hemos sido como pollos sin cabeza.
Y al final ha salido
Pero
bien.
ya suele pasar esto.
Hoy es como último día nuestro, porque ya mañana ya empieza un poco ya, ¿no? De fuera, viernes también tal, bueno.
Espero que les guste.
La base les ha gustado y esto es una pasada, claro, es una guía súper completa para Asperger, para esto, para
todo.
Claro, es como la base de todo. Y en Grecia es verdad que no, o sea, mucho hablar de sus libros accesibles y mucho hablar de sus voluntarios y tal, pero realmente te das cuenta que tampoco dijeron nada concreto fácil para que ellos empiecen a implementar. Y esta guía es algo práctico para empezar ya a implementarlo.
Con lo básico, o sea, lo más simple para empezar.
Está súper bien. Y la universidad está quedando de lujo. Es verdad que esta universidad está quedando de lujo. Hombre, tiene muchos servicios, ¿eh?
Sí, hombre, claro.
Pero está quedando de lujo.
Al final nosotros
estamos dando
somos el altavoz.
una bomba.
Hombre, yo creo que será
Una bomba. Una bomba. Yo no sé ni lo que digo. O sea, llevo un estrés de... ¡Qué horror! Pero sí, le estamos dando mucho... Está bien montado. Aunque no estemos en las tripas, se ve que está bien montado. Porque han hecho muy buen trabajo de guía para esto, guía para lo otro, guía para exámenes online, guía para... Hace mucho, ¿eh?
No, está claro.
Hace mucho. Y yo luego voy a presentar deportes, que es algo, bueno, he repetido en todas las presentaciones que he hecho que no es solo estudiar. Vengo a repetir, porque claro, ¿por qué nos metemos esas cosas? Claro. Pero es verdad. Sí. Es la vida universitaria, es inclusión total. Sí. Inclusión total. La universidad quiere inclusión. Y les he llevado a ver los pósters y les he dicho, mira, es que de biología, de arquitectura, o sea, hay propuestas de pósters en ese concurso de todos los centros, un montón. Estos son nuestros ganadores. Han estado viendo con buen interés así los pósters y tal. Y le decía, es que además en los pósters se ve el mindset de cada uno, ¿no? Pues el de biología va y propone como pinturas de estas de prehistóricas en cueva y una pintura de un cazador como con una rueda, en silla de ruedas. Súper bonito.
Es que no los he visto.
¿No has visto? El de educación primaria propone como un Macedonia, dice, una ensalada de frutas y un montón de frutas diferentes mezcladas. Y cosas así que dices, joder, está súper bien. Y se han quedado así por el sacando fotos, ¿eh? Le he dicho, ¿haces el tipo de cosas en Salud? Y me dice, fotos. No, le digo, es que es súper interesante. Porque
lleva ideas también.
Sí, palabra inclusión en diferentes escuelas y tal, ves cómo la misma palabra inclusión viene a la mente cosas diferentes a su estilo. Y dice, ojo, es súper interesante, sacando fotos. Yo creo que el de Grecia también está disfrutando de alguna manera también, ¿eh?
Se pregunta.
Está un poco comparando lo suyo con lo nuestro.
Pero también su servicio lleva unos años, ¿no?
¿El suyo? No me acuerdo cuándo fue. No me acuerdo cuándo empezaron. Aquí es en 2003, ¿no?
Sí, creo que sí.
2003, ya lleva muchos años, pero el de ahí no tengo ni idea, no me acuerdo ahora. Pero yo creo que, claro, y luego es el sitio que es más accesible. Comparado con esto con Atenas no tiene nada que ver.
Hombre, yo no he estado, pero por lo que me habéis contado.
Atenas tiene pues, típicas calles, ya sabes, cuestas, piedrecitas, el campus, o sea, con este comando con este no vale nada. Es verdad, ¿eh? O sea, es súper inaccesible. Es feo. El edificio de informática, los pasillos súper estrechos. Como muy antiguo, muy... O sea, comparando con este edificio no tiene nada que ver.
Hombre, es que
Solo la sala está, solo...
Es que ese está genial, es súper nuevo, súper grande. Está muy bien.
No, teníamos miedo y son la bomba. La universidad es la bomba.
Sí.
Y nosotros más por venderla
Oye,
sin saber nada.
también, Polín, que lo nuestro nos ha costado.
Vaya navidades, chico. Lo que nos queda, yo tengo todo bloqueado. El lunes, deadline de Web4All.
¿El lunes?
El lunes, deadline del proyecto del ministerio.
¿Pero cómo? ¿No, el proyecto del ministerio? ¿Cuál? Pero eso ya acabó, ¿no?
Otra convocatoria que dejamos esa y dijimos, vamos a la siguiente.
Vale.
Y mandé el anexo 1, lo mandé el lunes. El anexo es solo horas y nombres. Pues ya lo mandé. Se hará la propuesta.
Oye, mira, ¿has hablado con ella de la asociación? ¿Has hablado con esta chica de la asociación? Lo cual es lo que me dijiste ayer para que habrá que comentarlo, ¿no?
Ya,
Luego.
My big daughter, PhD, UPV, engineering.
Oh, okay.
Computer engineering in Malaysia.
Your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter.
Okay.
Like you. I said to her and send a video. Send video to Sana, my daughter.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So your daughter, how old is she? How old is she?
UTV.
No, how old is she?
How old?
Yeah.
26.
And your son?
26.
Your son? Your son, the boy?
Boy, 27.
Okay.
The boy, the big one.
Oh, because you have
Second, my daughter, UTV. Then Anas, then Sarah, 20. 20 now. Then the last girls, Lamis, also disability.
Okay.
I have 5 children.
Okay. A lot.
Arab people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we are going to continue with the session. And now we are going to continue with students with Asperger's syndrome.
Asperger's syndrome. This is a form of autism spectrum disorder that involves, fundamentally, a limitation of socio-emotional skills, both verbal and nonverbal communication, and lack of cognitive flexibility, which can lead to an alteration of certain behaviors that come to limit the ability to function effectively in different contexts.
With the double click, is not selecting everything. It's just the first paragraph. Yeah, just the first one.
People with Asperger's syndrome have no lower intelligence levels, but the aforementioned difficulties can affect their social life and academic performance. Sometimes the disorder can go unnoticed. As always happens in the world of disability, there is also a great heterogeneity in students with Asperger's syndrome, whose symptoms and characteristics will be different and specific to each student. Here we enunciate some of the difficulties and qualities that they may present, taking into account that, naturally, they do not always have to converge or manifest all of them in each case. Difficulties in the social field. Difficulties in the communicative field. Cognitive flexibility difficulties. Other associated problems. Regarding the social field, they may present difficulties interacting socially, rigidity to adapt their behavior to social situations, integrating into the group, making friends, and deepening social relationships, spontaneously sharing enjoyments, interests, and goals with others, in understanding others and in understanding the social keys that help them regulate their behavior, problems detecting emotions and feelings of others. They don't know how to be empathetic, expressing their feelings, absence of social emotional reciprocity. Sometimes they seem disinterested or even rude because of their attitude or talking only about what interests them, apparently not taking into consideration the mood or interests of others. They do not know how to anticipate other people's behaviors and reactions, so they often feel confused. Although in general, they show little social initiative, they participate and integrate into activities if others propose it.
They are not all presenting the same characteristics. These are characteristics they may present.
They often seem to ignore the elementary rules that govern social life: how to greet, give thanks, how to address others, what is appropriate to say or ask in each context, how to act, etc. They may have difficulties in facing new situations and lack of strategies to adapt to environmental changes. Students with Asperger's syndrome can find especially problematic the university environment and the organization of the teaching itself, with changing academic activities, quarterly organization, choice of subjects, different teaching staff, variable schedules, classes in different classrooms and spaces, different activities, groups of changing classmates, etc., that force them to make multiple decisions autonomously when organizing their own time and activities. In this sense, the service of attention to people with disabilities of the university takes a preponderant role in the support and adaptation of new students to the new situation, advising them in their first contact and facilitating their integration into the dynamics of the university. This work will require a planned and continuous follow-up that adjusts to the specific demands and needs that arise each time the student changes course, subjects, activities, practices. May have difficulty working in a team, and they may tend to be aware of their difficulties and a clear perception of their differences, which often leads to anxiety and depression. They may also have very limited interaction and social communication capabilities, such as lack of knowledge of the mechanisms of communication, alteration of nonverbal communication that hinders social interaction. They use few and atypical gestures of support for language, eye contact, facial expression, body postures, etc. When they show interest, sometimes opt for a spontaneous approach that may be unconventional or inappropriate. It can also seem, at times, that they are distracted or that they have no interest and yet be attentive, although their gestural attitude does not seem to indicate it. Misunderstandings due to the difficulty in understanding non-literal language and its intentionality, double meaning phrases, metaphors, jokes, etc. Likewise, they may not understand or misinterpret the gestures with which people express their emotions. have little or strange sense of humor. They may repeat certain phrases, comments, or even questions whose answer they already know. Insistence on talking about their interests. Sometimes their speech is monotonous and empty of intonation. Their language is often excessively formal, and even pedantic, a fact that can hinder social relations, and they may feel more comfortable interacting with colleagues through social media than doing it personally. They may also present cognitive flexibility difficulties, such as a rigid cognitive and behavioral style that may be reflected in limited, repetitive, and stereotyped behaviors, interests, and activities. Negative reaction to changes, which can create great suffering. They may feel more comfortable with routine and a structured environment. Prefer for scheduled activities. Adhere to specific non-functional customs and rituals, and they may present perfectionist attitudes that lead to slowness in the execution of tasks. Other associated problems they may present are stereotyped and repetitive motor rituals that are triggered in specific situations and beyond their control. Sensory hypersensitivity. Difficulty concentrating their attention on a task, easily distracting themselves. Difficulty integrating data from different sources and following abstract reasoning. Problems planning and organizing time, tasks, and their future based on realistic projects. Decision-making problems. Impulsivity. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. Anxiety and depression.
Again, how to interact with students with Asperger's syndrome. This is a guideline. Oops.
In general, it is important to know what difficulties and specific adaptation needs students present. It is important to understand the way of being and acting of students with Asperger's syndrome, their different way of perceiving and interpreting the world around them. Teacher must be patient, allow them to communicate, and make an effort to understand them. Should encourage their personal autonomy and participation in university life, helping them to enter different contexts, making them understand the rules of operation implicit in each new situation and mediating, if necessary, in the conflictive situations that may arise. And respect the moments in which they prefer to be alone or away from the group. In the classroom, it will be necessary to ensure a stable and predictable environment in which they feel safe, avoiding unexpected changes. They may feel more comfortable when always sitting in the same place in class. It is important to promote confidence in the classroom so that they are encouraged to ask for something to be repeated that they have not understood. They have difficulties requesting help. When they have a question, they are likely to not ask. Like the rest of the classmates, ask them from time to time if they follow the explanation, and respect communication turns, offering them enough time to ask their questions.
Some adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies for these students.
Regarding the methodology used, offer well in advance and in electronic format any material that will be used in class, notes, documents, readings, bibliography, outlines, slides, films and videos, or indications of where they can find it. Create a predictable environment in the classroom. Indicate at the beginning of each class session what will happen in it, activities, duration of them, whether they will be individual or in a group, etc. Follow the indicated structure and avoid unexpected changes. In some cases they may present manipulative difficulties in taking notes. Given this, the teacher can provide them, or have the help of a classmate who provides them, self-copying paper. They may require the use of a computer. They may have difficulty maintaining sustained attention due to the stress they put on the activity. Therefore, the information they receive can be fragmented. It is advisable the use of visual supports, figures, graphs, diagrams, tables, concept maps, since they process, understand, and assimilate much better the information that is visually presented. It will be also advisable to provide them in advance with copies of the presentations and all kinds of graphic material that will be used in class to support the subject. Difficulties in implementing certain executive functions can hinder performance in long and complex tasks. Breaking down tasks into smaller, more sequenced steps can alleviate these limitations. They used to perform well in online courses, as they enhance personalized learning, the material is accessible and organized, concepts can be reviewed again and again at the desired pace, facilitate personalized consultations, etc. For the classwork, communicate well in advance the schedule of the type of work to be carried out and the deadlines, so that they have enough time to organize. In individual tasks, in general they perform better than working in a group. Even so, it will be necessary to ensure access to the documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the work, to provide them with precise guidelines of what they are asked to do, how they should present the work, etc. They may require more time for the presentation of works, practices, etc. In group tasks, some students will be able to participate in the same way as their peers, both in the realization and in the exhibition of the works, performing well in cooperative learning situations, contributing to the group with their most outstanding skills, reading, vocabulary, memory, storage of information, etc. However, for others, to work in a group will be very difficult, they will not be able to coordinate with their colleagues, it will be a great effort to control what they have to do, when and where the meetings will be, they will not be able to keep up. Teachers should encourage their participation in group activities. In general, they will perform better in smaller groups. With students with Asperger's syndrome, it may be advisable to assign a single teacher tutor to act as a reference throughout the academic stage. Intensify tutoring meetings for more individualized follow-up, attention and support, clarify their doubts, organize tasks in detail, etc. Technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, etc., are especially favorable tools for communication with students with Asperger's syndrome.
So as you can see, virtual campuses and emails are very good resources for students with disabilities, because it's a common aspect of the disabilities.
For the evaluation, use the same assessment techniques that apply to the rest of the students. When in doubt, it may be convenient to know in advance in tutoring meetings if any evaluation method is not recommended specifically for that student. Provide them from the beginning of the course with clear guidelines on the type of assessments to be performed and maintain them. Given the possibility that they are blocked in stressful situations, it will be convenient to let them know that they can have more time to take the test, both written and oral. They may show difficulties in carrying out objective tests, test exams, due to their difficulties in analyzing information, synthesis, and choice. One option may be to replace them with questions that require short answers. Avoid questions with double meaning, since their language is literal and they have great difficulty in understanding. If the student has any type of manipulative or graphomotor difficulty, allow him/her to take the written exam on a computer. Resources for personal and technical support may be specific tutor in the center, volunteer students for support in taking notes, computer for taking exams, self-copying paper notebooks for note-taking. Now I would like to tell you a little bit about two common learning difficulties that may affect university students: dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Let's start with dyslexia.
There are two types of dyslexia. Acquired dyslexia, it manifests itself in those people who, after having achieved a certain reading level, lose some of the necessary skills after suffering some type of brain injury, cerebrovascular disease, tumor, an accident. And developmental dyslexia manifests itself from childhood and for no apparent reason. These are some of the difficulties that students with dyslexia may present. In reading, difficulty identifying, segmenting, or combining syllables and phonemes. In the rules of phoneme grapheme and grapheme phoneme conversion, omissions, additions, substitutions, and reversion of graphemes or syllables. Difficulty extracting the meaning and main ideas from the read text. Confuse orthographically similar words. Greater errors with functional and unknown words. In writing, arbitrary spelling errors in writing, V/B, G/J. Irregular word typing errors. Inadequate union and fragmentation of words and phrases in written texts. Difficulty organizing ideas and constructing the structure of a written text. Dysgraphia, difficulties in the ability to write, primarily handwriting. With calculation, difficulties in the acquisition of mathematical vocabulary, position, size, and relationships. Difficulty identifying and decoding mathematical signs. Confusions of mathematical concepts, before/after, plus/minus, half/double. Reversion of figures in numbers over one digit, 36/63. Difficulty understanding the meaning of numbers, the ability to quickly understand, approximate and manipulate numerical quantities. Other. Sometimes, poor attention span, distraction issues, usually due to fatigue. Poor functioning of short-term memory. Sometimes they present problems of laterality and spatial orientation. There is often a propensity for frustration and loss of self-esteem.
How to interact with this type of students?
In the classroom, it is important to know, understand, and value the educational needs presented by students. They should be placed in the first rows in class, and it is important to promote confidence in the classroom so that they are encouraged to participate and ask questions. Like the rest of the classmates, ask them from time to time if they follow the explanations and give them from time to time the opportunity to arrange a tutoring meeting.
And again, some adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies.
As far as possible, it is advisable to use audiovisual supports in talks and written texts, figures, graphs, diagrams, tables, concept maps, videos. Provide or ask them to draw up outlines of the summaries of each topic or activity. In the second case, supervise it. They may have difficulty taking notes, as well as copying what is written on the board, as they have difficulty listening and writing at the same time. Given this, the teacher can provide the material in advance or have the help of a classmate or volunteer to provide them, self-copying notebooks. Likewise, they may be allowed to use a computer. Allow and enhance in the classroom the use of calculators, computers, and word processors that include spell checkers. Regarding the classwork, communicate to them well in advance the schedule of the work to be carried out and the deadlines so that they have enough time to organize. Make sure they have the information in mind and notify them personally of any changes or developments. In individual tasks, this shouldn't be a problem. However, they may require more time for the presentation of works, practices, etc. In group tasks, they do not present any problem both in the realization and in the exhibition of group tasks. Although depending on the type of activity and the specific work assigned to them, performance can be more or less affected, or at least require more or less effort. In general, they will perform well in cooperative work situations. Intensify tutoring for more individualized follow-up and support. If necessary, insist on their particular abilities. Technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, etc., are favorable tools for tutorial communication with students. Regarding the evaluation criteria, it is important to provide them from the beginning of the course with clear guidelines on the type of assessment tests to be performed and maintain them. When in doubt, it may be convenient to know in advance in tutoring meetings if any evaluation method is not recommended specifically for that student or the specific difficulties that may involve and agree on the necessary adaptations. Increase the time of completion of written tests. In general, it will reassure them to know that they have extra time to read the statements and think about the answers. Make sure they understand the questions and what is being asked of them. If necessary, the teacher can read the exam to the student before the start of the test. At the conclusion of the test, review it to make sure you can understand what is written, or for any doubt that the student needs to clarify. Allow them to take written exams with a computer. Allow the use of spell checker, calculator, and other resources as necessary. In the correction of written exams, prioritize the content to the form of written expression and the inevitable spelling mistakes. Short question or multiple choice test exams can be an alternative, as well as in oral format. Some resources for personal and technical support are: volunteer students for taking notes, computer for taking notes and taking exams, computer programs for reading texts, self-copying paper notebooks, calculator.
Now we are going to talk about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
The attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is characterized by three primary symptoms: attention deficit, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. Each of them can occur in different intensities and frequencies, and interfere negatively with learning and/or behavior. These symptoms may manifest together, or only one of them may predominate. From their combinations are derived the three basic subtypes of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Inattentive and distractible type. This type is characterized predominantly by inattention and distractibility without hyperactivity. Impulsive hyperactive type. This, the least common type, and it is characterized by impulsive and hyperactive behaviors without inattention and distractibility. Combined type. This, the most common type, is characterized by impulsive and hyperactive behaviors as well as inattention and distractibility. Likewise, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can be accompanied by other disorders, such as learning difficulties, literacy and mathematical calculation, alteration in motor skills, like graphomotor difficulties, mood disorders, depression and anxiety, behavioral disorders, oppositional defiant disorder, aggressive behaviors of a defensive impulsive nature, or tics and obsessive disorders. From this alteration of executive functions, various behavioral, emotional and cognitive difficulties are derived, such as difficulty maintaining attention, errors in simple and monotonous tasks, losing or forgetting material, dates, commitments, difficulty planning and organizing, difficulty following instructions in complex tasks, difficulty completing a task if it is not supervised, impulsive and precarious strategies in the solution of problems, without analysis of the different possibilities of response, retention and working memory difficulties, difficulty controlling impulsivity, responding without thinking, low frustration tolerance, insecurity and low self-esteem, mismatch between the effort made and the academic results.
Okay, and here guideline about how to interact with these students.
In general, and as always, know what difficulties and specific adaptation needs the student presents. Tutoring is a good opportunity to talk personally with him/her. It is important to know and understand the way of being and acting of students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Maintain a natural, tolerant, and respectful attitude without prejudging the person by certain characteristics or manifestations. In the classroom, it will be necessary to ensure a structured and predictable environment in the classroom. If their attitude in class is not adequate or their jobs do not offer the desired performance, avoid criticizing them in front of their classmates so as not to damage their self-esteem. In this sense, it is advisable referring to the job rather than to the person. For example, instead of saying you are messy, use the phrase your work is messy. If there is a challenging behavior, it is recommended to use extinction techniques. Do not judge, confront, attack, enter into power struggles. Stand firm and offer alternative solutions. Use of reinforcements. Treat the subject individually, in a tutoring meeting. Propose the students to be placed in the first rows in class to facilitate eye contact with teachers and avoid as much as possible distracting elements such as doors and windows. In some cases, students may have an urgent need to move. The teacher must be permissive in this regard and understand and not censor their attitude. Include functional breaks during the session or between different activities. Adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies for students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Offer well in advance and in electronic format any material that will be used in class, notes, documents, readings, bibliography, outlines, slides, films and videos, or indications of where they can find it. Take into consideration the problems arising from alterations in executive functions. Offer them personalized instructions to make sure they have understood them. Take care of aspects of organization and planning of tasks, emphasizing the deadlines of work, presentations, exams, etc. May perform poorly on long and complex tasks. Breaking down tasks into smaller, more sequenced steps can alleviate these limitations, helping them plan, finalize, and check. Sometimes it will be convenient to reduce the number of activities, without renouncing the achievement of competencies, objectives, and contents, and prioritizing quality and significance. With students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the feedback on the tasks will be essential to develop self-correction skills. It is advisable to use visual supports in the explanations, figures, graphs, diagrams, tables, concept maps, as well as the handling of materials that facilitate the resolution of problems and the overcoming of their difficulties to abstract concepts. Provide them with, or ask them to elaborate it, outlines of the summaries of each topic or activity. Either because of the inconsistency of attention or because of literacy problems, they may have difficulty taking notes. Given this, the teaching staff can provide them in advance, or have the help of a classmate who provides them self-copying paper. Likewise, they may be allowed to use a computer. For the classwork, communicate well in advance the schedule of the works to be carried out and the deadlines so that they have enough time to organize. Make sure they have the information in mind and notify them personally of any changes. In individual tasks, they do not need to have problems. However, sometimes it may be necessary to remind them of access to the documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the task, to provide them with precise guidelines of what they are asked to do, how they should present the work, etc. They may require more time for the presentation of works, practices, etc. In group tasks, in general they will be able to participate in the same way as their peers, both in the realization and in the exhibition of the works, performing well in situations of cooperative learning, contributing to the group their most outstanding skills, creativity, innovation, generosity, tenacity, enthusiasm, etc. If they occur, their difficulties will lie in organizing and remembering and respecting dates and places of meetings, planning their tasks and controlling deadlines, etc. With students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it may be advisable to assign a single tutor to act as a reference throughout the academic period. Intensify the tutoring meetings for a more individualized follow-up, attention and support, clarify their doubts, organize and plan in detail the tasks and activities, review the general organization of the subject, etc. It is very important to maintain fluid communication and make sure that they retain the information of the tasks and activities to be carried out, deadlines, the type and date of the evaluation, etc. Technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, etc., are favorable tools for communication with students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. For the evaluation, it is important to provide them from the beginning of the course with clear guidelines on the type of assessment tests to be performed and maintain them. When in doubt, it may be convenient to know in advance in tutoring meetings if any evaluation method is not recommended specifically for that student or the specific difficulties that may involve. Continuous evaluation is especially suitable for this group. Due to their characteristics and difficulties in executive functions, the feedback of each test can be of great help to improve their performance. Some students have difficulty calculating and organizing the time they need to perform the exam. Others show fatigue that deconcentrates them and that can cause them not to perform at their level, etc. Increase the time of completion of the test. Divide the exam into 2 parts to be carried out on different days. Adapt the exam, reducing the number of questions, combining different formats of questions in the same test, development, short answers, multiple choice. Perform oral exams. Allow them to take the written exam on a computer if the student has problems with dyslexia or dysgraphia. Reduce distracting stimuli in the classroom. In general, it will reassure them to know that they have extra time to read the statements and think about the answers. Make sure they understand the questions and what is being asked of them. Remind them that they may have time to review the exam before submitting it. Regarding the specific resources for personal and technical support, they could be specific tutor in the center, volunteer students for taking notes, computer for taking notes and taking exams, self-copying paper notebooks for note-taking.
So I am aware we are running late. I don't know if you have plans for later or something. If you want me to finish here, we still have mental disorders and organic diseases. So, sure, okay.
Now I'm going to talk about mental health disorders. They can be defined as a state of significant limitation in adaptive activity or relationship derived from temporary or permanent cognitive, emotional and/or behavior alterations, in which basic psychological processes such as emotion, motivation, cognition, consciousness, behavior, perception, sensation, learning, or language, may be affected. Heterogeneity is an important factor to take into account in people with mental health disorders. Some students have the same disorder and whose characteristics are totally different, hence the importance of not stereotyping. The main consequences of mental health disorders are related to difficulties for interpersonal relationships and social inclusion, due to difficulties in externalizing their feelings, isolation, etc. Difficulties in adapting to new and changing situations, anxiety about common and potentially stressful events, losses, exams. Decrease in academic performance caused by pharmacological treatments, concentration problems, lack of interest and motivation, etc. Missed classes due to treatments, hospitalizations, etc. It is necessary to have in mind that if students with a mental health disorder do not come on their own initiative to inform about their situation or condition to the Service for People with Disabilities, their circumstances will be hidden from the teaching staff. It should be taken in mind that mental health disorders are not necessarily permanent and irreversible and do not imply an intelligence affectation.
A guideline about how to interact with these students.
In general, and, again, know what difficulties and specific adaptation needs the student presence will be of great help. Tutoring meetings are a good opportunity to talk personally with them. It is important to know and understand the way of being and acting of students with mental health disorders. Their stigmatization as violent people does not conform to reality. Discard stereotypes and focus on the individual characteristics of each student. Avoid labels. Maintain a natural, tolerant, and respectful attitude without prejudging the person by certain characteristics or manifestations. The greatest difficulty that these students can encounter is the fear of rejection that their condition usually causes, almost always due to ignorance. When talking with them, keep eye contact, avoiding any attitude of mere courtesy, so that they lose their fear of rejection and make them feel accepted and heard. Respect their style and rhythm of communication and behavior. They may have difficulties in processing information in the environment and adapting to it. Sometimes, They have little expressiveness or distant appearance. It is not due to a lack of understanding but to their slowness of response or structuring of language. In the classroom, transmit tranquility, ensuring a stable and predictable environment in which they feel safe, avoiding stressful situations. Respect the tendency that students may show to social isolation when they do not approach either the teachers or the classmates. Encourage in peers a positive attitude of respect, flexibility, and understanding towards the student with a mental health disorder, without ever falling into overprotection. Promote confidence in the classroom so that they are encouraged to ask for something to be repeated that they have not understood. They have a lot of difficulties when it comes to requesting help. When they have a question, they are likely to not ask it. Like the rest of the classmates, ask them from time to time if they follow the explanations and give them from time to time the opportunity to arrange a tutoring meeting. Respect communication attempts, offering them enough time to ask their questions, to answer or make their decisions. Avoid addressing them in public if this causes situations of stress or anxiety. Adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies for students with mental disorders. Offer well in advance and in electronic format any material that will be used in class, notes, documents, readings, bibliography, outlines, slides, films and videos, or indications of where they can find it. During the class activities, clearly and simply state the steps to be performed. Give them enough time to answer or make up their minds. Guide them in their choices and decision-making. They may have a different pace of study from the rest of the students. Enhance their strengths, skills and tasks. Academic achievements are important to them, as in some cases they can be a means of compensating for their personal and social limitations. The pharmacological treatment they receive can significantly reduce academic performance, study, work, etc., due to a possible functional and/or cognitive slowing. In some cases they may have difficulties in taking notes. Given this, they can be provided by the teaching staff, or have the help of a classmate who provides them, self-copying paper notebook. If necessary, allow the use of a computer. Difficulties in implementing certain executive functions can hinder performance in long and complex tasks. Breaking down tasks into smaller, more sequenced steps can alleviate these limitations. For classwork, communicate well in advance the schedule of the type of work to be carried out and the deadlines so that they have enough time to organize. In individual tasks, in general they do well, feel safer and more comfortable than working in a group. Even so, it will be necessary to ensure access to the documents and other resources necessary for the preparation of the work, to provide them with precise guidelines of what they are asked to do, how they should present the work, etc. Some students may need more time for the presentation of documents, etc. They may manifest anxiety or stage fright in the oral presentations of the works before their colleagues. If so, provide them with the opportunity to expose it alone with the teacher. In group tasks, most students will be able to participate in the same way as their peers, performing well in cooperative learning situations. However, for a small number of students, due to their problems of insecurity and the poor ability to interact socially, working in a group will be very difficult, especially if it is numerous. They will perform better the smaller the group. With students with mental health disorders, it may be advisable to assign a single tutor to act as a reference throughout the academic stage. Agree on the tutoring meetings how to act in the classroom to reduce their stress level as much as possible. As far as possible, respect their proposals regarding the suitability or not of public interventions, carry out or not carry out group activities, etc. Technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, etc., are favorable tools for communication with students with a mental health disorder. Offer the alternative of online tutoring meetings. For the evaluation, provide them from the beginning of the course with clear guidelines on the type of assessment tests to be performed and maintain them. Use the same assessment techniques that apply to the rest of the students. When in doubt, it may be convenient to know in advance in tutoring meetings if any evaluation method is not recommended specifically for that student. Suitable alternatives would be continuous evaluation, oral exams, complementary works, etc. Given the possibility that they can feel blocked in stressful situations, it will be convenient to let them know that they can have more time to take the test, both written and oral. In case of crisis during an exam, allow them to leave the classroom or take a break. Some students may show excessive anxiety in oral exams, so it would be advisable to provide them with an alternative. Some students may not take the exam due to the excessive and uncontrollable stress it entails. Sometimes they may feel more comfortable taking the exam alone, in a separate classroom or the teacher's office. Keep in mind that, either due to the symptoms of some conditions or due to the side effects of the medication, performance can decrease significantly.
Well, the resources are more or less the same than we have already seen in other conditions. So we can start with the organic diseases.
If the heterogeneity in the groups treated before is great, the casuistry that we can encompass in this group is even greater. There are many diseases with different symptoms, some of them very disabling, and that will make it necessary for each student to receive personalized attention, adapted to the specific educational characteristics and needs they present. We refer to long-term diseases and/or special treatments such as diabetes, kidney insufficiencies, severe heart disease, epilepsy, inflammatory bowel diseases, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, fibromyalgia, etc.
How to interact with these students in the classroom.
Know what difficulties and specific adaptation needs they present. Maintain a natural, tolerant, and respectful attitude without prejudging the person by certain characteristics or manifestations.
Some adaptations and teaching and evaluation strategies are
Keep in mind that they may have difficulty maintaining sustained attention because of pain, discomfort, incontinence, physical limitations, etc., or cannot carry out certain practices or activities. In these situations, explore other possible ways of acquiring the competencies, objectives, and contents of the subject, as well as for the evaluation. They can often miss classes, medical visits, treatments, hospitalizations, etc. They may need an extension in the work's delivery times. Use tutoring meetings as an educational strategy to support the training process. The contact with students with symptoms that make it impossible for them to carry out some type of activity or temporarily attend classes will allow the teacher to clarify the specific difficulties and, between them, look for ways to overcome them to be able to study the subject with a guarantee of success. Technologies such as virtual campus, email, forums, etc.
well, this is the same than in the previous conditions.
For the evaluation, provide them from the beginning of the course with clear guidelines on the type of assessment tests to be performed. It may be convenient to know in advance in tutoring meetings if any evaluation method is not recommended specifically for that student. Allow them to take the written exam on a computer if the student has any type of manipulative difficulty. Allow breaks to rest or to take food or drink, to go to the bathroom, etc. according to needs. If needed, enable the exam to be carried out in a separate classroom.
And the resources are also similar to the previous conditions, depending on the condition of each student. Okay, and here is the link to the document that contains all the information I provide in this presentation. The only thing is it's in Spanish. So that well, anyway, you can access and you can translate it, or we can provide it to you already translated. I think Nestor already talked about employability in this university, so maybe we can skip this slide if you want. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention.
Only 10 minutes for presenting some issues in the university. In 10 minutes, we are finished. Yes, questions? You have questions? Yeah. Sorry.
There are not any questions, but I
Okay.
want to summarize. First, it seems actually a lot of work for instructor. This is only responsibility for the instructor if he has multiple students with multiple disabilities. He has to do all the work by himself.
Well, I think I was going to ask you, do you have any conclusion after my presentation? Because I think that the most important thing is to ask what are the needs of the students in the class. Maybe they don't need everything. They
The
just
teacher,
need something.
The report, I show you an example in the presentation.
Yeah.
You get the detailed report for each student.
Okay.
And there is everything detailed for this student. What you have to do in the classroom, what you have to do in the exams. So this is like a general guide.
Okay.
It's like the reference and it's the basis of the service. But then for each student, you have the detailed report.
Okay,
So it's not so.
This kind of guidance,
Yes.
not legalization.
No. These are guidelines.
So one thing also, is there any procedures to monitor this? How instructors obey?
No. The only way the students can claim for more adaptation to the service, to the coordinator. So this is it's not there is not any formal evaluation of the I don't know if students have like a questionnaire about the service, or
I don't know.
I'm not sure, because we have an evaluation of the teachers, this kind of questionnaire.
Yes.
For all the students. I don't know if there is an adapted version where you can find questions, detail about the adaptations of the exams and so on. Perhaps the service, we can ask them. Perhaps they send the students this kind of things.
I have one last question, but maybe you will answer tomorrow, not today. Do you think among these different kinds of disability during the COVID-19 pandemic, do you face some difficulties for applying these strategies to deal with different disabilities?
Yes.
And what solutions do you recommend? Depending on the disability. I know maybe it's two students have the same disability, but
different needs.
Different needs.
Yeah, so it depends. I think the most important thing, as I already said, is ask the student directly what do you need? Do you have your needs covered? And as we saw, the virtual campus is a good resource. The virtual campus,
The virtual
yeah.
campus, but maybe not all students will respond because the virtual campus, actually most students are not, how to say, at the end of the day you find maybe 20% of students are following up at the end of the lecture.
So do you think that the students are not following the virtual
I
campus?
believe it's difficulty for most students. How about students with disability to keep following up?
Yeah, but I mean, if I need something, I need to be aware that I need to use that. You know, if all the information is in the virtual campus and it's the best way for me to access to the information, I need to be responsible of my actions.
You are talking about students.
Yes, yes, as a student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the student wants to learn, he will search for information, he will participate.
Okay, you can start.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So 10 minutes for we have been commenting that this university promotes inclusion in all the activities. So the Basque population is very likes a lot doing exercise, sports, and the university promotes this also. There is a program, the students can get a maximum of 6 credits by degree doing sports, like sports activities. They can get 3 credits by course. Okay, so there is a quite wide option. There are a lot of options for doing sports. And of course, the university promotes this program for students with disabilities also. So they can get these credits as well for the studies in the university. So there are some, oh no. There are some, okay, these are some information taken from the sports service in the university. The sports service of the campus caters for the sports needs of students with disabilities. For this, it informs about the sports offer to the students, and they offer guidance also for support during these activities. Students with disabilities with grade equal or greater than 33% have priority for enrolling in these activities, in sports activities. The university is coordinated with a very connected network of sports facilities, associations, teams. This is a very network, very, very connected, and they are very, they cooperate to offer these options to the students. The university has an adapted sports program for students with disabilities, and there are some also inclusive activities. So we have adapted sports for students with disabilities, and we have inclusive activities. Okay, the motivation for this service is that they are, and we all want an inclusive, equalitative, and cohesive society, and they say that we are confident that adapted sports will help us achieve this goal, because sports activity, I think that they are very a good opportunity to build in social relationships, to meet with other people, and it's very enriching. So there are a lot of options, but I'm going to highlight some of them. It's divided in the different campus. So in the campus of Vizcaya, there is a federation, this FECOR, that we have mentioned before also. It's the Federation of People with Physical and or Sensory Disabilities. And they provide some adapted sports activities like table tennis, paddle tennis, and boccia. I don't know if you know what sport is that. No? Okay, we can see video for boccia is a it's not seen here. I have the same problem.
You have to exit the presentation.
Yeah, I have this. Save. And then no. Okay. It's like the French sport pétanque, you know pétanque, where you throw a ball, and then all of them have to throw a ball, and the one getting his or her ball closest to the first reference ball is the winner. Okay, so. Okay, so they adapt the sequence of the ball to each one, and they throw the with the hand, with the mouth, with the feet. This is the best competition of Okay. Another very typical, we have basketball, adapted basketball also. There is a team in every campus, and this is not something new. In the campus of Araba, there is rugby, basket, adapted physical activity, adapted to each one student, so they can go and they can select which exercise they are doing. And this is something new. I don't know if not new in this university, but perhaps I don't know if you have you know about goal ball? Yes, goal ball. So I have here a video and it doesn't go, okay. Yes, about goal ball. This is an inclusive activity because this is a Paralympic sport, adapted Paralympic sport, but nationally this is inclusive activity.
Euskal Herriko Unibertsitateko ezgaitasunak dituzten pertsonentzako zerbitzuak jarduera fisikoaren eta kirolaren zientzien fakultateko portaera motorraren laborategiarekin batera antolatu dugu, ensaio hau. Digamos, impulsar, promover un poco el deporte inclusivo y hacerlo conocer y animar a la participación en la universidad.
Entzumenean eta orientazioan oinarritzen den talde kirol bat da. Eta kirol espezifikoa da urritasun bizuala daukaten pertsonentzat. Bigarren Mundu Gerraren ondoren militanteak ikusmena galdu zuten eta horren ondorio sortu zen golbola. Partidu batek 12 minutuko bi zati ditu, jokalari guztiak begiak estaliko dituzte, ikusmen urritasun ezberdinak daudelako.
Kabaiok pisatzen dute 1,25 kilogramo, dituzte kaskabel batzuk barruan, beraiek baloia entzun dezaten, jakiteko nora bota. Sorte zulo dituzte, hortik zarata ateratzeko, eta horretaz aparte, erabiltzen dituzte betaurreko berezi batzuk, begiak estaltzeko, eta denok egoera berdinean jokatzen.
Golbolaren zelaia luzeran 18 metro ditu, eta zabalean 9. 3 pertsona jokatzen dute talde bakoitzean, eta talde bakoitzak ditu 3 eremu. Jokalariak ezin dira hemen sartu. Talde batzen da, baloi hartzen du, eta jaurti behar du beste porteria da. Beste porterian dauden 3 jokalariak saiatu behar dira, baloia golea esartzea aldentzen. Eta gero hemen, ikusten den bezala, daukate marra batzuk, beraiek jokalariak orientatzeko defentsa eremuan. Bakoitza bere lekuan jartzeko. Jaurtiketa egiteko, printzipioz, baloiak botea eman behar du erdiko marra baino lehen. Baloia ezin da jaurti airez.
Oraintxe bertan 51 talde existitzen dira Espainian, 34 talde gizonezkoetan, 17 talde emakumezkoetan existitzen ere. Taldeak dituzte normalean 6 jokalari, baina 3 jokatzen dute, 3 suplente dituzte. Eta gerta daiteke 3 presentatzea bakarrik, da pertsona bat espulsatzea, da orduan 2 pertsonakin jokatu, baina inoiz ez pertsona batekin jokatzen. 2 falta nagusi bereizten dira, alde batetik falta arinak eta beste aldetik faltak. Falta arinetan zigorra beti berdina izango da, eta kasu honetan izango da baloiaren posesioa beste taldera pasatu. Adibidez, epaia seinalatu baino honen jaurtiketa egitea, zelegatik kanpo jaurtitzea baloia, eta bar. Erdiko marra baino lehen baloia botea egin behar du, da gerta daiteke horren gainetik jaurtitzea baloia, eta falta pertsonala izango zen, eta kasu horretan zigorra izango zen penalti bat beste taldearentzako.
Onurei buruz esan dezake